Hello.
Hello. Welcome to your Story Within podcast. Today we have Melanie Lemus with us. She is the Strategic Communication Specialist at Vision to Purpose. Welcome, Melanie.
Thank you.
Today we're going to talk about the wonderful topic of goals. Melanie, can you believe that we are already in the last week of January? Where has the time gone? February is right around the corner. Next week will be February 1st. So,
It's crazy. This week or this month has felt simultaneously super short, but also like eternal. So it's
yes, I can
one of those
agree.
weird
I
months.
can agree. So, have you made any progress on your goals this year, Miss Melanie?
So, we had my husband and I, my husband Chris, we had the classic goal of like get in shape and lose those quarantine 15. And we started
Yeah.
out strong, second week of January because we had family in town and you can't do anything like when you have
Right.
family. I ended up getting food poisoning we were doing like a high raw food diet, and I got food poisoning from some raw produce, and that set us back. But we got back on track this week, and we're starting to make some traction again. So we're getting there, not as far as we had hoped, but got to roll with the punches.
Yeah, not exactly the way you want to lose the weight, right?
No.
No, I completely understand that. Definitely didn't have any of those issues. I can say that I am moving forward on my goals. I haven't been perfect, admittedly, but I continue to get back on the horse when I make those little missteps, we'll say, and trying to move forward. So, why the topic of goals? So, this show caters to job seekers, right? Authors, other professionals. So, I thought kicking off, January with a show on goals would be really important because goals, if we don't have them, we don't go anywhere. You
Right.
can't measure them. You can't you don't know if you're succeeding, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So let me move some of this stuff around so we can do some fancy technical issues for you guys. That's my way of saying, please give me a minute. I need to move to all this stuff. Okay. So as I said, goals. So let me just put it this way. Have you ever started working hard but not getting anywhere? You're going through the motions and you think things should be happening and they're just not. It's not going anywhere. Maybe you see little improvement in your skills or achievements. Maybe, when you reflect on the last 5 to 10 years, you're wondering, what have I been doing with my life? I had all of these things in place. I thought I was going down the right path, and then nothing. 5 to 10 years later, you're still in the same spot.
Yeah.
Perhaps you're, an author trying to write that book, and you tell all of your friends, I'm going to write this book, and the book is about this, and you're full of passion. And then again, 5 years passes and still no book. And you start losing a little credibility, right?
Yeah.
You've already put it out there. People are all, waiting for this book. They ask you all the time, and then you actually start hiding. It's like, oh my gosh, I wrote a chapter, or I'm stuck on the first paragraph. So point being is, if we don't have goals in place, goals that are actionable, they're specific, they're measurable, all these things, and we're going to get into the details, I promise. Melanie knows me. I have to be careful. I brought her on as our special guest host because she knows I go off on my tangents. So she's here to keep me in line. Also share some important information with us. Anyway, so Melanie, you heard what I just said. We go off track. I'm on my tangent already. I need you to jump in. Why do you think that's the case? Yes, I said goals, I said specifics, but why do you think people really, I know people, they're setting goals and I know they have good intentions, but what do you think it really is?
I think it could be a number of things. For one, we sometimes get so bogged down in the day-to-day things. And I know for one, I'm very guilty of this, you know, being a mom, working from home, we homeschool. And then I also have like my own interest, things that I like to study for, you know, for fun. You and I are the cut from the same cloth in that manner. We're like, what do you do for fun? Oh, I study things. I read like medical literature, you know, we like that kind of stuff. And we get bogged down with those little things that we fail to do, take little incremental steps on a daily or weekly basis towards those big goals that we want to reach. And if you are not consistently doing the small steps, you know, how can you expect to be a mile down the road, you know, 10 years from now, if you're not moving at all? And that's one of the problems. But, you know, like we're going to talk about is how to make good goals. Some of the problems are, maybe the goals are just too ambitious. You don't, you know where you want to be, but you don't know how to break it down into bite-sized, you know, steps. And then maybe we never set a date to finish by. Like, you know, one day I want to be an author. Okay, one day is coming, and what are you doing to get there? So there's a number of reasons, and we're going to get into all the things that we can do to help fix those problems.
Right. Oh, that was such a good segue for the details we're going to talk about. You're absolutely correct. To achieve your goals, they must be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. They actually have an acronym for that called SMART. And again, I'll put it on the screen in case you want to take notes. So SMART, let's delve into that. So Melanie actually brought up the topic of the author, and I kind of alluded to it in my opening. So speaking as an author, I can tell you I was adrift for many years. I would proudly inform people that, yes, I'm going to write this book. And in my case, it wasn't 5 years or 10 years. It was actually 20 years later that I actually published that book, wrote and published that book that I had been talking about for years. It was to the point, I'll be honest here, it was to the point that my husband would actually leave the room when I would start talking about this so-called book that I wanted to write. So unfortunately, you know, and I'm not going to say, and like many of us, you know, maybe you out there in the audience have also, you know, gotten pretty close. I wrote that book 5 different times. I even got so close, I was at chapter 8 one time. And then I got derailed. And there were things that I could have done better that I didn't do. I didn't follow the SMART approach at all. I didn't know how I was going to write that book. Other than sitting down and writing it, I had no plan in place. It just sounded really good, and I knew it was something I wanted to do. So has anybody experienced that? Have you, Melanie, experienced that?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I've been, I think my personality, I'm very much a dreamer, and I have these lofty goals. And sometimes it's difficult for me to rein myself in and say, okay, what can I do today to get there? So over the years, I've gotten better at breaking it down, and I can do it for other people. I'm excellent at helping people. Well, these are the steps you should do. You know, it's so easy to look outside and be like, well, do this. But as far as implementing it for yourself, yeah, it can be a little challenging, but.
Yeah, you know, that's a good point. We're easy to help others, but when it comes to doing our own things, sometimes we get in our own way. And that's another reason to have something like the SMART approach in place. There's a lot of goal setting and goal planning approaches out there. Today, we're going to use the SMART goals approach. But again, feel free to find something that works for you. We're going to go through this one. So, and why? Why are we going through this one? Well, okay, so setting SMART goals means you can clarify your ideas, focus your efforts, use your time and resources productively, and increase your chances of achieving what you want in life. So specific, you know, is simple, sensible, significant. If I go back, I'm going to put it back on the screen. So as I'm talking through this, you see it. Measurable is that meaningful, it's motivating, it's going to keep you interested. And then achievable, some people say attainable, it's kind of interchangeable in this acronym.
Heard actionable.
Actionable as
This
well.
is where
Yes.
you should put like the action verbs, like
Yes.
you know, running so many miles by whatever, or writing so many pages by whatever. It should have an action word. I've heard
Yes.
also.
True. There's a couple different things, all kind of pointed at the same point.
Mhm.
And then relevant. That's another one that could say realistic. Some people say realistic. Basically, it's reasonable, realistic, resource, results based. All of those things is what that word means. And then time bound. When are you planning to have it done? You're like setting a deadline for yourself, so you have something to strive for, to reach. So it could be time based, time limited, time/cost limited. When you're an author and you write this book, you have very little time after you write that book and you publish it. You become old very quickly in that realm, the author realm. As soon as you put your book out, you have less than a month to be classified as a new author or a new book. Then you become stale and you get lost in the noise. So you have to make sure you mark it. So writing the book is one thing, but actually getting the book in the hands of readers is a whole nother thing. So you need to include all of that in your process. And then again, time sensitive. So Melanie, can you take us through what specific looks like?
Yeah, so a specific goal is going to be clear, and you're going to be able, when you clearly focus your goal, if it's very specific, you're going to be able to really motivate yourself to achieve it. And you had mentioned to me the other day when we were talking about this, to use the 5 W's. What do I want to accomplish? Why is the goal important? Who is involved? Where is it located? And which resources or limits are involved? So be very specific. And let me give an example of a non-specific goal. Would be, I want to advance my career. Okay, that's a goal, but it's very non-specific. It doesn't give you anything really to aim for. So a specific example would be, imagine that you're currently a sales executive and you'd like to become head of sales. So a specific goal could be, I want to gain the skills and experience necessary to become head of sales within my organization so that I can build my career and lead a successful team. So that gives you something to aim for, getting the training, So that would be more specific than, I just want to advance my career.
Excellent, excellent. So now that we got specific down pat, let's take a look at measurable. So what does measurable mean? It's important to have a measurable goal because you need to track them. If you don't have that specific goal in place and you're not measuring anything, how do you know when you reach it?
Right.
So a measurable goal could, or should, I should say, address questions like how much time, how many, how will I know when I've accomplished it? You got to give yourself some sort of examples, some sort of, not example, excuse me, time frame, so that you stay on point, that you're striving to something. So using Melanie's example, that sales executive, you might measure your goal of acquiring the skills to become, say, head of sales by determining that you will have completed the necessary training courses and gained the relevant experience within that measurable time frame, 5 years. If you want to get to that point, how much time do you need to get there? Set the goal, that measurable goal, which is 5 years. Mm-hmm. So now that we have measurable, what about achievable? Can you actually achieve that? Is that realistic? Can you go from this position to the head of sales in that time frame? So achievable just means your goals need to be realistic and attainable. Again, is that in the art of the possible? Or are you really going above and beyond what is really doable for you? So an achievable goal will usually answer questions such as, how can I accomplish this goal? How realistic is this goal? And based on other constraints such as financial factors. So let me give you an example. Yes, you can go back to school. So I can go back to school. I come from the mindset you can be anything that you want to be. But reality is I have a PhD. I am not a medical doctor. I'd have to go back to school. Well, there's a little problem with me trying to become a medical doctor. I kind of have a problem with blood. I cannot stand the sight of blood and I will actually pass out. So to become a medical
That may
doctor
not
for
be
me,
a goal for you, Janine.
yeah, that would be not good. That wouldn't be realistic. And we'll talk about realistic, but not achievable. Yes, I could. Well, no, I couldn't even get the degree because of the steps I would have to go through. You know, I would have to cut into a cadaver or something. I don't know, but you get my point. I would do things that are not within my scope, if you will. It's just in my comfort zone.
One thing I want to add to the achievable part is also consider consider what life stage you're in. Say you're a a brand new parent, whether you're mom or dad, and you have a little child at home, or you have a number of little kids, or say you're currently a stay-at-home mom and your husband works outside of the home. Is it really realistic for you to go back to school full time right now? Or is it really realistic for you to become, the manager at your job when your hours are going to increase by, maybe 20 hours a week, when you're the one that's in charge of running your household, for example, or, taking the kids to and from soccer practice, whatever. And I use a lot of examples of being a mom because, of course, I am a stay-at-home mom and I also work. So I like to pull examples from my real life. But with achievable, you also have to think about your life stage and is that appropriate? Or like, if my mom, who is, she's in her upper 60s and she retired as a nurse a few years ago, is it really realistic in this stage of her life to go back to school to become a doctor? Probably not, So by time she would finish a medical doctor degree, she might be a little too old to really want to be in the workforce. So you have to think about your life stages too.
Yeah, exactly. You have to know what your priorities are for your life. A good example, although ironically, I did have a student who did go back to school, went to law school. He was a medical doctor, went to law school in his late 60s, became an attorney in his 70s. But again, we're not saying you can't do it. We're just saying you have to be realistic. Do you want to do that? And is your family okay with that? Just things to think about. Sure. So we covered the achievable. So again, you might have to ask yourself whether developing those skills required using that example. Head of sales is realistic based on your existing experience and qualifications. And do you have the time to train effectively? As Melanie said, what's your family situation? What's your current work situation, etc. Yeah. So moving on, let's talk about relevant. So for relevant, Melanie, take it away. Tell us about relevant.
Relevant goals are those that matter to you and that you have control over. So a relevant goal can answer yes to these following questions. Does this seem worthwhile? Is this the right time? Does this match our efforts or needs? Am I the right person to reach this goal? And is it applicable in the current socioeconomic environment? So these are all questions that you're going to ask. Is this a relevant goal? So for example, what would be an example of an irrelevant goal for me? Going back to school to be an underwater basket weaver. It's kind of irrelevant. There's not really a big market for that. So that would kind of be a waste of time. Hey, if you're passionate about underwater basket weaving and that is what you want to do with your life, go for it. But if you are looking for financial stability, make sure your goal is aiming in that direction.
Right, exactly. Again, we're not on the show to tell you what you can and cannot do. We're just asking you to think about the things that you want to do and put this approach in place to make sure that you move forward smartly. Okay, so let's see.
Oh, I can give an example of a relevant goal for like the example that we've been going with. You might want to gain skills to become head of sales within your organization. But is it the right time to undertake the required training or work toward additional qualifications? Are you sure that you're the right person for the head of sales? And have you considered your spouse's goals? For example, if you want to start a family, would completing training in your free time make it more difficult? And this kind of blurs over into that relevant in your, in your stage of life we kind of touched on a little bit ago. So a lot of these goals will kind of like, weave together. But that is making sure it's relevant within your life.
Right, perfect. Excellent example, as always, Melanie. Appreciate that. So the next item we're going to talk about is time bound. This one's my favorite because it puts that deadline in there. It makes the procrastinator Janine go away a little bit because I know I got to get something done. So every goal needs a deadline to focus on, something to work toward. This part of the SMART goal criteria ensures that you make your long-term goals that priority, because as I stated with my author example, it was easy to say, I'm going to write a book. And shame on me, 20 years literally passed by and nothing. I got very, very close, but nothing. But as soon as I put this process in place, and I will say one of the other things that I did not do that I should have done was asked for help, but that's another show. Making sure you reach out to the experts. Sometimes you don't know it all, and I had to get over myself. But again, that's another show. We should probably schedule that for February too, Melanie. But anyway, so once I put that in place and I actually assigned a time to it, my personality also is, if I know I have to get something done, there's a date on a calendar, or I've told people a date, now I can't have egg on my face. I have to make sure that I follow through, because words matter. And, I too am a strategic communication specialist, and words have meaning. So when I say I'm going to do something, I have to follow through with it, even if it's my own personal goal. So time bound for me, again, is my favorite because it holds my feet to the fire and says, Janine, if you're really going to move forward on this, you have to put a date to it. You can't be wishy-washy, and that will get you to move forward. And I'll tell you, go ahead.
That speaks very much to your personality type, that you are very motivated by external accountability. There are other people where as soon as someone is counting on you, it's like, nope, I can't do it. I don't want, like they don't like having that external accountability. But that speaks a lot to your particular personality, that motivates you.
It's funny that you say that, because we have Michelle on the line, and Michelle and I are holding each other accountable this year with walking. Part of our New Year's resolution to get healthy and to dump some of that COVID weight is we walk every day. And yes, I really look to her to make sure I don't cancel, like I'm too busy today. No, she's going to hold me accountable, and I'm going to do the same for her. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Michelle's probably cracking up as she's watching the show today. So some time-bound questions to ask yourself. When? That's easy, right? When do you plan to get that goal accomplished? When can I do 6 months, or what can I do 6 months from now? What can I do 6 weeks from now? What can I do today? I'll tell you, I do like what I call incremental time goals. So I'll go back to the author thing. I don't feel like writing every single day. It's just not in me. Some days I write well, other days it would literally take me 8 hours to come up with 1 page of text. I don't know if anybody else feels like that, but when I have those days when I get up and I've had my coffee and the old brain's not moving the way I want it and the words aren't coming, I just sit down and I say, okay, I'm not going to write today. It is on my schedule. I was supposed to write today. I'm going to research, so that I'm constantly moving forward on that goal. I'm doing something and I'm staying true to what I said I was going to do. So create those incremental goals to help you get to that bigger goal. It's kind of like project management in a sense. You can't, what's the old saying? Rome wasn't built in a day. No, it wasn't built in a day, but I bet they had a timeline,
right.
And they put in incremental goals to get there. What were you going to
Yeah.
say?
One thing that I would want to add is what I had talked about earlier is like we get bogged down in the day to day. And when you're thinking about a time bound goal, it's very important to create a margin of time in your schedule so that you have the time to put toward your long term goals. We are like those fish that grow to whatever size tank we have. It doesn't matter how much time, we all have the same amount of time, and we all seem to like just fill our time to the max. You know, it's like we find our value in how busy we can be, right? So if you're
Right.
working towards a long-term goal, I think it's really vital to give yourself some space to create or give yourself the ability to create some time to work towards those goals. Like, you know, one of my favorite books on goal setting is Living Forward by Michael Hyatt and Daniel Harkavy.
Yeah.
I've read this so many times. I just love the way that they lay it out in here. And they talk about creating margin by triaging your calendar, decide what's essential, what's non-essential, and what is important, but not right now. So they say schedule your priorities, things that you cannot budge on, things that you don't want to budge on, and then learn to say no. I know Lisa Turkhurst actually had a book about your best yes. You can't give God or your goals or whatever your best yes if you're constantly saying yes to all these other things. So you have to learn to say no so that you will be able to give your best yes to the things that you are meant to do in this life.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up because that is actually something that I'm working on. I'm the type of person, and Melanie will tell you, that sometimes I bite off more than I can chew because I'm a very passionate person. I have lots of goals, but I'm a learner by nature, hence the reason I probably have the PhD. But I get so much enjoyment by the learning in itself,
Yeah.
probably more so than sometimes the outcome, you know, which is dangerous sometimes because then you don't get everything done, and then you have a lot of different tasks ready to go. And I'm feeling great because I'm learning all this stuff. My mind is going. I'm one of those people that can't always shut off my mind. It's constantly thinking. So I'm fortunate that I actually have Melanie in place to say, that's great, Janine. I'm so glad you're going down that path, but we need that blog article topic you want me to write on, like today, if you want me to have it done by tomorrow, you know. So
well, you're also a helper by nature, and so you constantly want to say yes, and you want to help people reach. I mean, what's your tagline for your business?
So be a light for others to help them find their way. Yes,
Exactly.
you're
You're a
right.
helper by nature, and so it is difficult for you to say no because you get joy from helping people reach their goals.
Yes. So you're exactly right. And it's good to bring that up because as you're creating these goals for yourself and you're following the approach, I'll bring it back up, you know your personality. This is time where you got to sit and reflect and know yourself. And that doesn't always come easy. As Melanie opened the show with saying, it's easier to look at somebody else. Isn't it easy to look at someone else's faults or come up with a solution to somebody else's problem? Well, yeah, because you're the
we can be
outside looking
objective,
in.
right? We can be
Right. You're not emotionally
right.
attached. So yes, you see the big picture. But this requires, if you really want to be successful and actually achieve the goals that you set out for yourself, you have to do some self-reflection and really know what you're capable of. And I don't mean the skills per se. We talked about that. I'm talking about knowing your personality. And again, my personality is, yes, Melanie's right. I do like to help a lot of people, which is why I love my job. I love my job, as the career coach, the resume writer, having the Christian business, and being an author. But I also know that as a learner, again, I constantly learn. So I see a new program, I got to delve in because I'm also an IT person, and I see this new software come out, hence even this StreamYard podcast stuff. And I'm like, I love it. I got to use it. Of course, that takes me a day to figure things out and move forward here and there. So I know my personality. And so again, as Melanie stated, I have to have accountability partners. So whether it's walking, whether it's making sure I'm moving forward. We have meetings all the time on different things and to keep us both in sync. So just know yourself, self-reflection as you do
Yeah.
these goals.
For me,
Um,
I
oh,
am
go
a
ahead.
person that's motivated by my belief in something. I have to really believe in the reasons behind something for me to really put in the effort for it. If it's something like as a kid, I'm always this doesn't like, why are we, this is pointless. Why are we doing this? This is not reaching the goal of like learning or whatever. I was always that way where I had to know, well, why are we doing this? And if there's a great reason behind it, I am like motivated like no other, and I will just go. But the external like accountability partner, it does nothing for me.
So when you asked your mother a question and she responded with, because I said so, that didn't fly with you. You
My parents
probably
were
kept
really
asking.
great because my dad is the same way I am. And so my parents were really
Ah,
great. And they've always encouraged us to be questioners. My three sisters and I,
okay.
or my two sisters, there's three of us. We've always been questioners, and they are great about like, well, this is why we believe this is why we do this way. So they actually nurtured that. They didn't,
Okay.
they were great about it. They really helped me in that. So
Good, good. I have another friend whose mother encouraged her to ask questions, and now we tease her as an adult because she'll ask us a question and it turns into another question and another question and another question. So because I know her mom very well, she's like a second mom. I'm like, why did you encourage her to ask all these
yeah.
questions? We
Well,
can't get
that's
her
me.
to
That's why I
stop.
went to journalism.
It's funny.
That's, that it just was a natural segue for me. I went and started working in journalism, and it just
Ah,
comes natural. I love asking questions, and I'll get to know people like we've been
yeah.
friends forever. And people tell me the craziest stuff because I'm just like, tell me, you know?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, that is your personality, very much so. Yes, that's one of the reasons I hired you. I love that about you. You will find the answer. That's
Yes.
for sure. Okay, so wrap up the time bound using that same example that we've been using, that head of sales position. So gaining the skills to become head of sales may require additional training, as we said, or experience. We mentioned that earlier. How long will it take to acquire those skills? We mentioned that as well. So just making sure you're putting that thought into place as you map out that career choice. And you really should, as job seekers, you should really think about any job you have an interest in. What is it going to take to get there? Can you stay the course? Life does happen. I'll give you an example. My son he'll be 17 years old. He wants to be an anesthesiologist. This is the first actual career choice that has stuck with now for about 2.5, almost 3 years. Prior to that, it was, well, the choices were all over the place. We'll just say that, and some of them had me, questioning, really, how are you going to make a living doing that? Whatever. Typical teenage stuff. But this one, he's stood his ground. He's still moving forward. He's done great in chemistry and biology, which is awesome. And as a career coach, Mom, the career coach, I have definitely explained to him. I've showed him all the sources, and I've showed him the time track it's going to take to become that anesthesiologist. He is fully aware that it will take between 9 and 12 years, depending. And I say depending because if he goes in the military, that could be an option. If he's in an academy program right now where he can get that associate's degree, that'll shave off time. But at the end of the day, it could take up to 12 years. And can you stay focused for 12 years in a rigorous program? Anyway, so those are things to think about. So you have now learned about what is necessary to achieve your goals. All right. Melanie, do you have any final thoughts on the topic that you would like to share?
I do. Actually, Janine, have you ever heard of smarter goals?
No. Go ahead and share
So
the
there's
smarter
an
goal.
extra E and an extra R. And I read about it on Michael Hyatt, the book that I referenced. I read about it on their website, and I just loved it. The extra E stands for exciting. You want your goals to be something that
Oh,
motivate and inspire you. And then
okay.
the extra R is for risky. You want something that will challenge and stretch you. You still want it to be realistic like the other are, but you want it to be slightly risky to where it stretches you and pushes your boundaries. So for example, say you're in sales. You know that it's realistic that you could sell 50 whatever you're selling, right? You could make 50 sales. But what would be risky yet still attainable is 75 sales. So push yourself, try to go a little bit outside of your comfort zone. So those the extra E for exciting and the extra R for risky, I think those are something fun to add to your SMART.
I like it. I like it. Thanks for sharing. All right. Well, I think we had a great conversation on SMART goals. And as Melanie said, smarter goals. Awesome. Let me see what else. I got my handy dandy notes to make sure I don't forget anything. Thank you, one thing for Melanie, for doing this with me, guest hosting on this wonderful topic.
It's always fun.
Before I forget, so our next episode, we'll have Crystal Calhoun from Made to Be Unique. That'll be February 4th. It is a later show. It's 7 p.m. We will post it for those of you who like to watch at our normal time, which is 11 a.m. We will get it posted. But if you can, please join us. Again, just make sure you've signed up on our Facebook page. It's going to be this same location. So just join us here. You can also go to my author website. And if you're on my author website, go to the podcast tab and you will see the schedule for February. And as always, feel free to leave in the comments a topic that you would like to hear. We'd love to bring something of interest. So that's all I have for today. Anything else before we sign off, Melanie?
I don't think so. Can you know, one thing that we didn't mention is Crystal that's coming on. What is her business, Made to Be Unique?
Oh, good point. So Crystal is, well, she's an all-around guru. She has been my graphic designer, web designer, gosh, you name it. She's done anything creative, really, for me for the past almost 7 years now. So her business, basically, she does online marketing, web design. She is a master at web design. She does, again, graphic design. She's designed 2 of my book covers for me. She does a lot of the social media graphics. And again, just an all-around creative being, just a talent. And I'm so excited that she's offered to come on the show and share the importance of having an online presence.
She's such a wealth of information.
Yes, yes. She's actually created the 2 websites that I have. My Vision to Purpose website and then my author website. So just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to that online presence. She will get you where you need to go for sure. All right, Melanie. Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming on the show. I will tag up with you later to talk about some other things that we need to get done as part of our goals. So
sounds good. Thanks.
All right, friends. Thanks for watching.